Just a warning, I am on coffee cup number 4. So this is going to be a lot of energy up here this morning. So Tamara told me if I was going to speak with you, I had better be prepared. So I have done my research, I have done my homework, I know a lot about you. I know that being in the credit union industry these days is a challenge. You've got regulatory burdens, you've got technology, and the ever-pressing issue of finding talent. So I am not going to spend the next 25 minutes up here talking about all the things you already know and understand about how to grow your credit union. Instead, we're going to talk about what you need to do to take it up a notch. Because I think the one thing that we can all agree on, it's probably the one thing that we're all worried about, is that what has made us successful to this point, what's gotten us in this room, it is not going to be enough to grow our credit union going forward. We are living in a marketplace that is shifting so fast. It is changing so rapidly. And in a world that is moving this fast, wouldn't it make sense, wouldn't it seem logical that maybe we spend a little bit of time up here this morning really focusing on what it's going to take to lead our credit unions going forward, what it's going to take to really attract top talent, and what it's going to take to get that top talent to be as passionate as you are about growing your credit union. You're going to walk out of here today with the strategies, the steps, the exact things that you need to know to not only get talent to beat a path to your door, but to get them to engage and take ownership and really help you take your credit union to the next level. Sound good? All right. So I think if you want to attract top talent today, you've got to begin by understanding talent. You know, everybody seems to think that it is a generational issue, like there is something wrong with this younger generation. Who in here is over the age of 50? Hands up. Yeah, I heard a couple shoulders creak when you try to get those hands up over your head, right? Well, if you were over the age of 50, you probably grew up something like me. My father was the breadwinner in our family. He came home every night at exactly 6 o'clock. He would fix himself a scotch and soda, and before he sat down to bite into his meat and potato, he started complaining about the younger generation. He started complaining about my generation. We had no work ethic, no commitment, no loyalty. What would become of this world if it was left to my generation? You know, the truth is we have been complaining about the younger generation since the age of Socrates. So I'm not going to tell you that there aren't some challenges with this younger generation, but your ability to attract top talent, your ability to build a strong team around you, it is not really a generational issue. You need to understand what's going on in the minds of employees today. Now, those of you over 50, and I'm not going to make you raise your hands again, once a day, hands over your head is probably enough, correct? But if you are over the age of 50, this is the world that we grew up in. We graduated from school and got a job, and we believed that job would be there, correct? And then if we worked hard, we could probably get promoted at that job. And if we just didn't screw up too badly, we could probably retire there, maybe even get a pension. No employee, no matter their age, believes that anymore. When they're stepping through the doors of your credit union, this is what's going on in the back of their mind. Downsizing, outsourcing, merger, acquisition, artificial intelligence. We have to understand that as leaders today, we have taken guarantee off the table for our employees. And with guarantee off the table, we have to put something else back in its place. The biggest question on employees' minds today is, why should I engage? If you cannot guarantee me a future, why should I step to the plate and help you grow that credit union? The strategies that I'm going to cover this morning are exactly the steps that answer those questions. They're the steps that the companies that are really doing a phenomenal job of not only attracting top talent, but really engaging it. These are the steps that they are following. So let's go ahead and jump in. When we think about today's employees and what they want, what they're really attracted to, what they're passionate about, what makes them want to go to work for a company, the first thing that comes to mind, the first thing that they put at the top of their list is they want to do work that matters. They want to feel like they are making a difference. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. In other words, what they want is purpose. Now, purpose may sound soft and it may sound too touchy-feely, but let me tell you that purpose is one of the most powerful things that you can have to motivate somebody. It turns on this intrinsic motivation, and it is more powerful than any benefits program or any incentive plan that you can possibly put together. College basketball fans in here, I got any? Raise your hands. All right. I'm from the great state of North Carolina. Go Tar Heels. A couple of years ago, there was a matchup in college basketball that nobody wanted to watch. It was a matchup between Mississippi State and the University of Connecticut. And nobody wanted to watch this game for far more reasons than it was women's basketball. Nobody wanted to watch this matchup because the last two times these teams had met, the University of Connecticut, also known as UConn, had beaten Mississippi State by an humiliating 60 points. It's one of the worst losses ever in college basketball. Add to that the University of Connecticut was entering this game having won 111 straight games in a row. A record almost unheard of in college basketball. Now, nobody wanted to watch this matchup between these two because nobody thought that Mississippi State stood a chance of winning. Nobody, that is, except Mississippi State. Now, I don't know what you all do in the states where you're from when college basketball is on, but in the great state of North Carolina, we watch college basketball. If you are at work, you are not working. You are watching college basketball. If you go to the grocery store, you are not shopping. You are watching college basketball. And Lord knows if you are at church, you are not praying. You are watching college basketball. So I remember exactly where I was the night that this game was on. I was at a dinner party. And being good North Carolinians, we had the television on in the background, waiting for the Carolina game to come on. And we could hear the cheers coming from the television that made it sound that this game was better than anybody thought it would be. And as the cheers got louder, as the roars got stronger, we all grabbed our plates, we got in front of the television, and we're sitting like this just watching the game. And sure enough, right at the end, Mississippi State pulled out the win. Nobody could believe it except Mississippi State. And after all the cheers and the roars and everything was over, a lone reporter caught a player coming across the court. And she tracked her down and said, "Congratulations, how excited are you that you won?" And the player said, "I'm out of my mind." And the reporter said, "But you've got to be shocked. You've got to be can't believe you won." And the player said, "Absolutely not." She said, "I knew when I got up this morning we were going to win. I knew when I was getting dressed in the locker room we were going to win. I knew that when we stepped onto this court, we were going to win." The reporter said, "How?" She said, "Because when we lost to UConn last year, we vowed as a team we would never, ever lose to UConn ever again. We were so committed, our coach started every game reminding us that we had to get our reputation back." She said, "If you came down to our locker room, you would see the number 60 plastered all over the walls." She said, "We didn't step on to that court to play basketball. We stepped onto that court to win a championship. That is purpose. And it is the foundational piece to attract employees today. When I first started studying employee engagement, one of the most interesting things that I found was that no matter where in the world you were, the most engaged and the least engaged employees were exactly the same. The least engaged, government workers. Not surprising, right? But they have a guaranteed job for life and some of the best vacation schedules along with a pension. The most engaged workers everywhere in the world, nonprofits. Some of the worst paid and some of the least guaranteed of a future. That is the power of purpose, and it's the foundational piece as a leader that you need to be talking about, helping people understand what they're a part of and what they're trying to do and create in your community. And once people understand your purpose, they're ready to connect and be a part of your credit union. But you've got to ask yourself, do I have a culture that is creating that? Do I have a culture that is allowing people to step to the plate and take ownership? Am I allowing people to really connect and feel part of our credit union? My husband is a dentist, and he has been in practice for a long time. And about 2 years ago, he came home from the office after having one of those days. Have you ever had one of those days? And he came through the door and he said, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I feel like I am the only person who cares about this practice. If I don't show up, we'd never hit goal. I'm the only one trying to find new patients. He said, I'm done. I just think I'm going to consult or something. Now, I think he has had a bad day. He needs a glass of wine, a good night's sleep. He gets up the next morning. He bounces down the stairs, grabs a cup of coffee, and he says, I've made a decision. He said, I think I am still going to quit dentistry, but before I do, I am going to hire a business coach. Now, I am a business coach. I am a very good business coach. But my husband is a smart enough man to realize he should not hire his wife to be his business coach. So Rob went out and he found a woman by the name of Sheila. Now, Sheila's smart, and my husband likes smart women. Sheila's good looking, and my husband likes smart, good looking women. And Sheila's from Alabama. She had this way of talking, and honey just dripped off her tongue. And every time she spoke, my honey got so stuck in her honey, he would do anything that Sheila told him to do, which is a good thing because Sheila told him his problem was not dentistry. It was his leadership style. See, my husband is what's known as a hero leader. He makes all the decisions. He solves all of the problems. He takes all of the responsibility, and he gets all of the blame. She wanted him to switch his style to what's known as a transformational leader. And as a transformational leader, he would still get to control what happens in his dental practice. He would get to decide what goals they're going to hit, what patients they're going to see. But the question of how now belongs to his team. Because when you ask people how, you simultaneously give them voice and responsibility. They take ownership. Look, you heard in my introduction that I am a strategic planner by training. And I would take a weak strategic plan implemented by the people who created it over a masterpiece driven top down. The people that work with you want to help you learn to grow your credit union. But you have got to learn to lead through the power of the question. You get to decide what, they get to decide how. Now, I think this is so important that we are going to try it on for size. I want you to look at the person of your table that looks the most stressed out and exhausted. When you find that person, I need that person to raise their hand. Most stressed out and exhausted? All right, got it? Got it? All right, you are my leaders. And for those of you who are stressed out and exhausted, I want you to name a challenge, a problem, anything that you've got going on in your credit union. Maybe you're trying to get a branch going. Maybe you need to hire a new employee. Maybe you need new technology. I don't care what the problem is. I want you to state the problem and ask everybody else at the table how to solve it. Go. All right, in the interest of time, I want you to come on back to me. But this is what typically happens when I run through that exercise. The leader that gets to lay the problem on the table, the experience they have is, wow, that was great. I got to state my problem, and I don't have to solve it. And for the people who get asked, who are the people that are portraying your employees, this is the answers that I get to that. I feel valued. I feel important. I feel like my credit union cares because they asked my opinion. Leading through the power of the question allows your employees to give you their ideas to help you grow your credit union. And it takes your stress level way down. Now, I can see the question on all of your faces. And I am going to answer that question right now. Yes. Sometimes your employees are going to have stupid ideas. But that's okay. You get credit just for asking. When you ask people and they believe that they had some say in it, they take ownership of making it happen. You know, years ago, I worked in financial services, and my first boss was a man who remains to this day my favorite boss and simultaneously the most frustrating human being I have ever worked for. Because Jeff led through the power of the question. Whenever you went into Jeff's office with any kind of problem, his first response was, I don't know. What do you think we ought to do? And it became such a joke among all of our employees that we would never walk into his office without going through that ritual. And one afternoon, I went into his office because I had a problem that I felt was way over my pay grade. And I walked in there, and Jeff was in there with his 5-year-old daughter, Caroline. And she's one of those 5-year-olds that blonde hair, big blue eyes, and she still spoke with a lisp because she hadn't quite learned to articulate all of her vowels. And when I walked in, Jeff saw me, waved me in, and I said, I don't want to bother you. You're in there with your daughter. He said, no, come on in. I stated my problem, to which he said, I don't know. What do you think we ought to do? Absolutely. And before I could open my mouth, Caroline, who was standing between us, put her hands on her hips, and with a look of complete disgust, looked at me, looked at her father, and said, oh, Daddy, do you do that here too? Because, see, Jeff was raising leaders at home. Here's what I learned. Jeff was promoted 1 year later, and we didn't need him. He led through the power of the question to create a succession plan. By the time he left our area, we were ready to run things. We overcomplicate talent development. The best thing that you can do as a leader is to lead through the power of the question because it develops people. Here's the crazy thing, is people want to stay longer because they feel like you value them and want them to be a part of your organization. So we are cooking with gas. We have 2 of the 3, and these work in order, by the way. You have got to begin with purpose. Walk all around your office telling everybody at your credit union what you're trying to accomplish and why it matters. Then you have got to learn to lead through the power of the question and allow them to create ownership and give you their ideas and their passion for growing your credit union. What could possibly be left? Who in here, I don't want to ask it that way, who in here has ever bought something and what you paid for it, you think is perfectly reasonable, but if your spouse or significant other, family member knew what you paid for it, they would think you're crazy, right? My husband's worst nightmare is that I will sell his boat for what he told me he paid for it. But that's okay. He thinks I get my hair cut for $15. Secret to a happy marriage, right? What is that? That is the power of value, and it is strategy number 3. You want your employees to add value to your members, you better begin by adding value to your employees. But you've got to understand what value means to employees today. Everybody seems to think that it's incentive and pay, and that's important, but it's icing on the cake. In 2008, do we all remember 2008? Should we have a moment of silence for 2008? I was asked to give a motivational talk about how do you motivate employees in a downturning economy. And what I discovered was really fascinating. First of all, it's exactly what motivates employees no matter what this economy is doing. But it isn't incentive. It isn't a pizza party. It isn't even that employee of the month or the perfect parking spot. What motivates employees is support and accountability. Number 1 with support, they want to be invested in. They want to grow and they want to learn. That doesn't mean you have to have them on a path to be CEO. It means you have to allow them to learn and grow, care about their career path, and care about their next steps. The second piece of that, accountability, is critical. They want to know what the rules are to be successful in their position. The second piece is, you know that dead weight on your team? We've all got dead weight on our team. They want you to handle that. Because when you do everything you can to guarantee the success of your credit union, they'll do everything they can do to help you get there. So those are the steps, those are the strategies, those are the things that you need to focus on. Now, when I look at a room like this, I always think about the fact that you have given me one of your most precious things, and that is your time. And as much fun as I have had up here today, I want to make sure that you go back to your credit union and you immediately get return on investment. So I am going to tell you what I would do if I were going home with you. Now, I'm not. You don't have to explain me to your family, okay? But here's what I would do is, number 1, I would decide as a team what our purpose is. And I would decide as a leader that I was going to talk about it at the beginning of every meeting, at the end of every meeting, so that 3, 6, maybe 9 months from now, I could walk into my credit union and every person in there could tell me what the purpose was. Number 2, I would change my leadership style. I would let the stress go, and I would start to lead through the power of the question. Every time I had a challenge, every time I had a problem, I would take it to my team and ask for their ideas and their opinions. And last but not least, I would make sure that every employee that I felt was valuable in my organization was on some type of learning path. I would invest in them so they could invest in us. Look, I'm not going to kid you. I think that we are in for challenging economic times. But credit unions, who you are and what you stand for, and your underlying principle, you are America's best kept secret. And if you can get the message out, you are going to be unbelievably and difficult to stop. But you've got to understand that the greatest competitive advantage you've got is surrounding yourself with an incredible team. Jack Welch, the legendary leader of GE, once said that there's 3 things a leader needs to focus on: cash flow, customer experience, and employee engagement. I'm going to argue with that. Yes, I'm going to argue with Jack Welch. But if as a leader, what you want to do is figure out leverage, where is the highest and best use of your time today? If you focus on cash flow, you could alienate your members and lose employees. We all know we could go broke trying to make members happy, right? But if you focus your time and your energy on engaging the team that you've got, on attracting really talented employees, you're not only going to wake up and have an unbelievably powerful team, but you'll drive cash flow, you'll drive member engagement, and quite frankly, you will leave your competition in the dust. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell. Thank you for your time today, and I've loved being with you.